Hi, I'm Walter Silbert, product specialist at My Household Storage Solutions. What I'm going to do here today is take you through a typical install of a basic closet installation. Before you approach the house, just make sure that you have with you a drop cloth, a pair of booties, and let's go to work. Once you've opened up the Ox box, you want to lay out all the panels, shelves, drawers, and doors. You'll also have the poles. There's going to be a box with all the screws and all the small hardware. Some basic tools for the installation of a closet would be a screwdriver, a stud finder, a box cutter, a tape measure, a screw gun, a level, and a mallet. You will be sent a ratchet screwdriver along with some other items in a small packet. Also a handsaw. Some other specialty tools that would be a good idea to have on a job would be a circular saw, a jigsaw, maybe a hacksaw, and if you do have the availability, a table saw would definitely come in handy. Along with the material that you'll find inside the Ox box, you'll also find boxes of hardware. In the box of hardware, there are a few different items. First of which, angle brackets, which are secured by two different screws. There's a 3/4 inch wood screw that goes into the panel itself, and then a 2-inch screw that goes into the wall stud or MOLLE or some other type of locking device into the wall. There's a double-ended stud for the fixed shelves where they get continuous. There's also a push-in wall stud, also for a fixed shelf. There's adjustable shelf pins that get used on all the adjustable areas. There's a number 6 wood screw that get used for drawer installations, and it could also be used on an angle bracket. There's a Euro screw, which is a cylinder type screw. It doesn't have a point on it. That gets used also to install the drawer slides. Then there are pole cups. The poles that we use are oval poles, they're chrome oval poles. These have 2 pins on them also that line up with the pins that are on the panels. They can be pushed in. You could also use a number 6 wood screw to lock it in. These are the discs that cover the screw holes. They come color coordinated depending on the color of the installation. So it might not be a perfect match, but they're in the family. This last bag is of hardware to install toe kicks. The plastic piece, you'd use the rubber mallet to knock the plastic into the holes on the panel. Then the steel clips get actually attached onto the toe kick itself and then pressed together. Different closet installations have different amounts of walls or different size closets. Today what we're working on involves 2 walls. Sometimes a walk-in can be 3, 4, or 5 walls. What we do is walk in here first, we take a look at the walls, we'll see if there's anything in the way or obstructing where our units will go as far as shelving or drawer units. On this wall here we have a power outlet and a cable outlet. So we want to make sure that that is not in the way of where the designer put certain parts of the closet installation. On the far wall we have another wall plate, which again, we just want to make sure isn't in the way. Okay, so first what we're going to do is we're going to measure the wall, the space that we have now, which we have 72 plus inches of usable space here. On the plans, we need 59 1/4. So 59 1/4 will bring us before that light switch. It's right over here. Now each unit, it starts off with a 40-inch unit coming from the corner. So when you add in the panels, that becomes 41 1/2. So it would bring us to this space here. And then the second unit is a 27-inch unit, which would bring us past these outlets. So we do have room, and the designer was correct. On this far wall, let's see, we needed 55 1/2 inches total, because that takes into account the 24 inches of return that we want on this wall for the hanging material. And then the drawer unit is 30 inches wide, so that will be right around this outlet here, so that'll be no problem at all. Everything will fit. Now that we've checked the dimensions of the room and the dimensions of the actual closet installation, we'll come and grab the panels. So we bring the panels in one section at a time. They will have labels on them. Each panel, in order from left to right, are labeled consecutively. So the panels we'll start off with section number 1, and that first shelf to the right of that would be section number 2, which is this one here. By looking at the plans, any sections that would have drawers, we want to prepare these upright panels just to make sure that If they do need a toe kick, we can put the toe kick clips on prior to carrying them in. It's just easier installation when it's laying down. This is a drawer section in section 2. So to install, what we'll use is the mallet and these clips that are in the bag with the toe kick installation kit. In the second and third hole up from the bottom, which we determine because the top of the panel has an edge band, and that's where the labeling is also on the top side. You just knock this piece of plastic in like that until it's flush, and now that's installed. We'll do that on both panels 1 and 3, because that's the left and right panels for that first section. So again, in holes 2 and 3. That's if it's not leaning on something. That's why we do it when it's laying down, so you have more support when you're knocking it in. Okay. Another thing to look for when you're going to grab your panels, the top and the bottom, the way that the holes are drilled, the top and the bottom can be switched. So if there is a damage somewhere on a side or a top edge, you can flip the panel to make the top the bottom. That way it doesn't slow you down with your installation. Now that we've prepped our panels and carried them into the room, we're going to work along with Bob, our lead installer, and start installing from the left to the right by pinning all of our panels and getting them ready to install. Bob is also the person that you'd be speaking to in the case that you would need any help with an installation. You'd be speaking to Bob on the phone directly. What he's doing now is he's putting the push pins into the panels. He started from left to right. The push pins on the top are for the top cam. He's also putting them in on the bottom, just above where the toe kick is, for the bottom of the drawer section. What you'll see now is he's actually going around to all the panels, putting the push pins in. The reason he skipped that center panel, that's going to be a shared panel where we can use a double-sided stud, such as this one here, because that way it carries through with the cam shelf. He'll put that one in after this. What Bob is doing now, on a double hang section, we're splitting the panel in half, 42 inches, to give you the symmetrical double hang section. On the last section to the right is a shelving unit, which involves 6 adjustable shelves and 3 fixed shelves. What we would do here is divide it again right in the center for the center fixed shelf, and then divide evenly the space for the adjustable shelves, just so it looks symmetrical top and bottom. So these are the through pins that we skipped before on the center panel that go from the double hang to the shelving unit on the right-hand side. Now the installation of the double pin, it has to be done in a certain way. It actually has a washer on the one side that's built in, so it goes in one direction like an arrow. You bring it towards the left-hand side or towards the side that you're going to lock in first. So that way that washer end pulls up against the panel to lock it together. If you put it the opposite way, when you go to lock it, it pulls the pin back out and the shelf can fall on your head. In the first section, where the drawers are going to be installed, these are the drawer slides, the second half that comes in a separate hardware box inside the Ox box pallet. The other piece of this slide is actually installed previously on the drawers. That's how they get sent to you, is installed on the drawers already. As you'll see on the panels, there are a third set of holes down the center. We use those just as a guide to show you the height of where the drawer installation is going to be. You use a Euro screw, those small half-inch cylinder screws, to install the drawer slide onto the panel. Just how Bob is doing here. And the slides line up. The front part of the slide you bring to the front edge of the panel. And then the holes line up with the holes that are on the drawer slide itself. And then you just insert the Euro screw. On the panels, the installation for the drawer slides, it has a guide hole in the center. This is the center hole. This is the front hole, the center hole, and the rear hole. The center one is just a guide. The Euro screw doesn't go into that hole. We just use the front and the rear hole. The slide holes on the back of the slide, they would line up directly with these holes. So it makes a very simple installation. Now that we've finished prepping the panels, on wall 1, sections 1, 2, and 3 are the drawer unit itself. Section 2 is the shelves here. These are the fixed shelves that lock sections 1 and 3 together. We'll start that from the top with that top fixed shelf and then the bottom fixed shelf. That way the installation of the drawers can be installed, and that will give you the height for the center fixed shelf, because on different installations there are different heights of different drawers. So in each case you do the top fixed shelf, the bottom, and that will give you the middle height for that fixed shelf after the drawers are installed. Now that we've installed the top and bottom fixed shelf of the unit, we're going to install the top drawer just so we can get a height on where to put that center fixed shelf. Now after that top drawer is installed, what you do is you line up the top of the drawer face to see which hole that lines up with, and that's where you push in the push-in studs. You push them into those aligning holes with the top of the drawer face. That gives you the height for that middle fixed shelf. Now that the push-in studs are in and the drawer is removed, we can install that center fixed shelf into its position, lock it in again with the ratchet screwdriver. That also adds to the support, and now the unit can freestand on its own. Now that the structure of the unit is completed, what we'll do is we'll make sure that it's placed in the correct spot 24 inches away from the adjoining wall, just so there's room for the double hang. If you want to measure that, just to make sure we have the 24 inches that we need. Okay, we're right on target. Next, what we'll do is level this unit up just so it stands correctly. It's very important, especially in a drawer unit such as this, to make sure it's perfectly leveled, just so when you install the drawers, the alignment of the faces is correct. You don't want it to look all jagged. Now that the unit has been installed, leveled and plumbed, secured to the wall, what we'll do is we'll start from the bottom. We'll install the toe kick. To install the toe kick, on the back side, it has pre-drilled holes that you would attach the metal bracket onto. Now that metal bracket clips onto the white bracket that we installed earlier. Okay? When you go to push it in, it snaps together, so it makes a nice secure connection for the toe kick to connect in the front of the unit. Now that all the drawers have been installed, you want to recheck just to make sure that all the drawers are installed straight and that the unit is indeed plumb and level. So right here they are all nice and even, so everything looks good. You can go on to the next wall. Now that we've completed wall 1, we're going to move on to wall 2, which starts off with section number 4, that upright panel, and then section 5 is the shelving for the double hang section, and then consecutively 6, 7, and 8 for the rest of the sections. We're going to install first the top fixed shelf for that double hang section. Again, using the ratchet screwdriver just makes your life a lot easier to use it. And that will be supplied to you in the welcome packet. And this is where the double stud, where it's very important that you installed it the correct direction, where it pushes in towards that first section off of the wall. That way when you lock it in, it pulls it against the washer end of the double stud. Next you install that middle fixed shelf, which you installed the screw-in or push-in studs at the center point on the vertical panel to divide it in half. Again, locking it in with the ratchet screwdriver. What you'll notice on the next section here, where the shelving unit is, we installed another toe kick kit because for this specific customer, they asked for a toe kick to be placed on the bottom of the shelving unit, which we normally install on the drawer units. Now we're installing sections 6, 7, and 8 onto wall 2. This top fixed shelf gets mounted onto the second side of the double pin, using again the adjustable screwdriver, locking all the cams in place. Next, he'll install the center fixed shelf, which when we installed the shelf pins earlier and made them all at the same distance apart from each other, that gave us the center, just so everything looks nice and symmetrical when they put the adjustable shelves in. Lastly, we'll install the bottom fixed shelf. Again, the bottom fixed shelf has the second set of holes on the top of the shelf, just so when you're using the screwdriver, you don't have to reach underneath into that tight space. Okay, now in that last section, section 8, we're putting in the toe kick just as before underneath the drawer section. Before we did this, again, you make sure that the unit is plumb and level. Helpful hint, on the bottom fixed shelf, that top hole, when you go to lock in the cam, it's reversed to lock it in. So instead of righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, it's lefty-tighty. So just make sure you turn that ratchet screwdriver to reverse to lock those in. Okay, now that both walls 1 and 2 have been completed as far as the framework, the drawers, and the adjustable shelving, what we're going to do is install the oval chrome rods for the hanging section. When you install the pole cups, they have 2 pins that are lined up with the hole system that's on the panels. What we do is you skip the first hole down from each fixed shelf, giving you clearance for the hangers. Now the poles, when they get sent to you, they're pre-cut, they're wrapped, that way they don't get all scratched up in shipping. Now that the installation of the closet material has all been completed, the drawers, the shelving, the hanging, the last step would be any accessories. It could be a valet rod, belt or tie rack, which would include their own separate directions. After all the accessories are completed and installed, the next would be housekeeping, cleanup. You gotta wipe down all the material, get all the dust off. After the cleanup of the closet is completed, as you're moving along, you might notice some cuts or scrapes. Sometimes does happen on deliveries. What we'll do is we'll fill it in with either a color stick or a color marker. Okay, just like this. Fill it in, rub off the excess material, okay, to blend it in. Now, as you're installing, if you do notice some things, you might want to take care of them at that time instead of waiting for cleanup. But cleanup is like a secondary chance to check anything else that you might have missed. Also, when you're cleaning up, earlier on when we were leveling and plumbing the system, we installed shims. This would be the time that we would cut off any excess material to get that out of the way, to just give it a clean install. Okay? At the end of the job, you'll have excess hardware. You might have some excess material or wood. That is common. We try to have some extra pieces just in case something was damaged where you wouldn't be able to fix it with a color stick. Any excess cardboard, plastic, wrapping materials, it would be a good idea. You bring some garbage bags with you. We wrap it up. We bring everything to the curb. Now that the installation and cleanup have been completed, before you take the customer for a final walkthrough, what you'd want to do is on the bottom cam shelves or any other areas where you might have had to secure it to the wall, if there's any screw heads exposed, we would use a colored fast cap just to cover up the holes, give it a cleaner, smoother appearance. Now that the fast caps have been installed, we'll install a company sticker giving all the company's information and phone number, either on the inside of a drawer panel or on the leftmost upright panel if there are no drawers on that job. Now with the final walkthrough with the customer, you'd actually go to each wall, so you'd show them wall 1 on the diagram, point out to them exactly what you've installed, that it matches the diagram, the 5 sliding drawers, show them that they actually physically work, 3 adjustable shelves. Wall 2 has a double hang section, and then a shelving unit with 6 adjustable shelves that they can move on their own, and the 3 fixed shelves, and any accessories that were installed on that job. After you complete that walkthrough, the customer has to sign, we call a letter of satisfaction. They would fill this out and they sign it. This is a very important document. This is needed for final payment of the job and for your payment for the installation of the job.